The research station stood as a defiant monument to human ingenuity, perched on the edge of the most violent storm corridor in North America. 300 meters of advanced carbon fiber and metamaterial towers rose from the rocky landscape, each one a carefully designed conductor that was more living instrument than simple lightning rod. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, feeling the storm's electrical potential translate into a symphony of data streams dancing across her augmented reality display. Her team of 12, a mix of electrical engineers, quantum physicists, and biomimetic designers, moved with practiced precision around her. Incoming primary discharge, called out Marcus Chen, the team's lead predictive analyst. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, triangulating the lightning's potential path with millisecond accuracy. Potential strike zone. Tower 3, Eastern Quadrant. Probability at 87.6%. Elena nodded, her eyes never leaving the massive storm system brewing outside. This wasn't just a research project. This was humanity's moonshot, a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact with one of nature's most unpredictable forces. The Alien Observation Drone. A sleek, almost invisible construct belonging to the Galactic Confederation's preliminary survey team, continued its silent vigil. Its quantum sensors were going haywire, unable to comprehend the complex energy dynamics unfolding below. "Prepare capture sequence," Elena commanded. Her voice carried the calm of someone who had spent years training for this moment. The storm reached a crescendo. Atmospheric pressure dropped. The air became charged with an almost sentient anticipation. Marcus's prediction was off by 0.03 seconds. The lightning strike hit Tower 4 instead, a deviation that would have destroyed conventional equipment. But these towers were anything but conventional. Designed using principles borrowed from biological neural networks, they didn't just conduct electricity, they communicated with it. The lightning bolt struck with a force that would have vaporized most electronic systems. Instead, the tower seemed to absorb it. More than absorb. The electrical discharge spread through the tower's complex matrix like information flowing through a living brain, its energy carefully parsed, understood, and then redistributed. Capture efficiency at 94.7%, reported Dr. Aisha Okonkwo, the team's energy conversion specialist. Her voice held a mix of professional detachment and barely contained excitement. "We're not just collecting energy. We're having a conversation with the storm." The alien drone's sensors began to malfunction. Its quantum-based computational systems simply couldn't process what was happening. A human technological system was displaying levels of energy interaction that defied every known principle of physics in the Galactic Confederation's databases. Elena watched the data streams, her augmented display revealing layers of complexity that went far beyond simple electrical conductance. Each lightning strike was unique, a fingerprint of atmospheric conditions, geological interactions, and now, human intervention. "The storm is adapting," Marcus said, his voice a mixture of awe and scientific precision. "Our capture matrix is creating a feedback loop. It's not just collecting energy, it's learning." Outside, the storm began to change. Lightning strikes that had previously been random and destructive now seemed to follow subtle, almost intelligent patterns. The towers weren't just conducting electricity, they were negotiating with it. Dr. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to communicate, to find patterns, to understand, to adapt. Now they were applying that fundamental skill to the most dynamic and unpredictable force in nature. The alien observation drone continued its futile attempts to comprehend. Its quantum algorithms crashed and reset, unable to process a technological paradigm so far beyond its understanding. "Prepare for secondary discharge sequence," Elena called out. "Let's show them what we can do." As if responding to her command, the storm outside seemed to pulse with an almost conscious energy. Humanity was no longer just observing nature. They were beginning to speak its language. The Veloxian Confederation's central chamber was a marvel of architectural precision. Geometric surfaces that shifted with holographic data streams, walls that conducted thought as easily as electricity conducted energy. Commander Kthax stood at the center, his scaled hands clasped behind his back, mandibles clicking with barely contained irritation. "Impossible," he muttered, reviewing the initial reports from Earth's Lightning Research Station for the third time. The data defied every known principle of energy conversion in galactic science. Beside him, senior researcher Vexera carefully manipulated a holographic projection of the human facility. Each replay revealed something new, subtle interactions between the lightning capture towers that suggested a level of technological sophistication far beyond what initial assessments had indicated. "Their methodology is unconventional," Vexera offered, her translator implant rendering her clicks and chirps into smooth xenolinguistic speech. "They're not treating electricity as a resource to be extracted. They're treating it like a living system." Kthax's mandibles clicked faster, the Veloxian equivalent of a dismissive laugh. "Living systems. They're humans, a species that only recently achieved stable orbital technology. Their entire civilization is less advanced than our most rudimentary research outposts." But the data told a different story. The Lightning research wasn't just about energy capture. The human facility seemed to be developing something closer to a communication protocol with electrical discharges. Traditional Veloxian energy systems used complex quantum entanglement and precise mechanical interfaces. The humans appeared to be using something else entirely, a system that looked more like biological negotiation than technological extraction. A priority communication arrived from the observation drone. Its quantum systems had been thoroughly confused by the human facility. The drone's report was a series of anomalies, computational errors that suggested something fundamental was happening that exceeded current scientific understanding. "We need to issue a challenge," Kthax decided. "If they can prove this technology's viability, we'll listen. If not, they'll be dismissed like every other emerging species that claims technological breakthrough." The challenge would be precise. The Confederation would provide a standard scout vessel, a marvel of galactic engineering that had been the pinnacle of energy conversion technology for 3 centuries. The humans would be required to retrofit the vessel using their experimental lightning capture technology. The test location was carefully chosen, the Maelstrom Corridor, a region of space known for its violent electromagnetic storms. It had destroyed 17 different exploration vessels from various galactic civilizations. No ship had ever survived more than 72 hours in its turbulent energy fields. Vexera prepared the detailed specifications. The scout vessel was a marvel of Veloxian engineering. Quantum flux capacitors, multidimensional energy shunting systems, adaptive quantum shields that could theoretically withstand extreme electromagnetic radiation. Its standard power systems could generate more energy in a microsecond than most developing civilizations could produce in a year. And now they would hand it to a species that was barely a century into serious space exploration. The challenge was more than a technological test. It was a statement. The Galactic Confederation did not believe in participation trophies or gentle introductions. Emerging species either proved their worth or were left behind. Kthax activated the formal communication protocols. The message would be direct, challenging, borderline insulting, a standard diplomatic approach for dealing with what the Confederation considered developing species. "Attention Human Research Collective," the message began, its translation algorithms carefully calibrated to convey precise levels of bureaucratic condescension. "Your recent data transmissions suggest a potential technological anomaly in electrical energy conversion. The Galactic Confederation hereby extends a formal technological challenge to validate your claims." The specifications were detailed. Retrofit a standard CF-772 scout vessel. Survive the Maelstrom Corridor. Demonstrate energy capture efficiency above 65%, a threshold no previous civilization had achieved. The subtext was clear: prove yourselves, or be forgotten. What Kithax and the Confederation didn't realize was that humans viewed challenges very differently. Where other species saw an impossible task, humans saw an invitation to rewrite the rules of possibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, reviewing the challenge specifications, simply smiled. Her team had been preparing for exactly this moment. The CF-772 scout vessel sat in the human retrofit facility like a sleeping predator, all sleek Veloxian metalloy curves and precision engineering. Around it, Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team worked with a controlled intensity that bordered on religious devotion. Primary neural interface is online, Marcus Chen reported, his hands dancing across holographic projections that seemed to flow like liquid thought. We're not just modifying the ship's systems, we're teaching it to think like a living storm. The retrofit was nothing short of revolutionary. Where the Veloxian engineers had built a ship of rigid mechanical precision, humans were creating something closer to a living organism. The lightning capture technology wasn't being added to the ship, it was being woven into its very DNA. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo focused on the ship's energy matrix, her augmented reality display showing complex interactions that would have seemed like pure magic to traditional engineers. We're developing a symbiotic relationship between the ship's systems and electrical potential, she explained to the Confederation observers. It's not about controlling energy. It's about communicating with it. The Veloxian observation team watched with a mixture of skepticism and barely contained scientific curiosity. Commander Kithax had personally arrived to witness what he was certain would be a spectacular failure. Preliminary system integration at 67%, Marcus called out. We're seeing emergent behaviors that weren't in our original design parameters. The ship was changing. It all began to develop microscopic adaptive layers that seemed to pulse with an almost organic quality. Traditional sensor arrays were being replaced with a network that more closely resembled a biological neural system than a mechanical interface. Energy translation matrix is coming online, Aisha reported. Her voice carried a note of something between scientific precision and pure excitement. We're not just capturing electricity. We're learning its language. The final day of retrofitting arrived with a tension that could be cut with a quantum knife. The Confederation had imposed strict observation protocols. Every modification would be scrutinized, every system tested with a level of skepticism reserved for the most outlandish scientific claims. Thax watched the preparations with a mix of professional detachment and growing unease. The human team moved with a synchronicity that suggested something more than standard technological collaboration. They weren't just engineers. They were something else entirely. Initiation sequence begins in T-60 minutes, the facility's AI announced. Its voice was carefully modulated, but even the artificial intelligence seemed to carry a hint of anticipation. The Maelstrom corridor awaited. A region of space so violent that it had become a graveyard for technological ambition. Electromagnetic storms that could tear apart the most advanced shields. Radiation levels that would cook most ships' systems in milliseconds. A crucible that had destroyed civilization's most advanced exploration vessels. Final systems check, Elena Rodriguez commanded. Her neural interface glowed softly, a subtle indication of the complex data streams flowing between human and machine. The ship began to change. Its external appearance remained that of a standard Veloxian scout vessel, but something fundamental was different. Where most ships relied on complex energy shields and mechanical protection, this vessel was developing something closer to a living defense mechanism. Marcus Chen's final diagnostic revealed something unprecedented. The ship wasn't just prepared to enter the Maelstrom corridor. It was looking forward to it. Electromagnetic potential mapping complete, he reported. We're not just ready. We're adapted. Kithax leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. The human team had done something impossible. They had transformed a standard Veloxian vessel into something that defied every known principle of space exploration. As the countdown to launch began, the ship seemed to breathe. Not a mechanical pulse, but something more. A subtle, living potential that suggested intelligence far beyond traditional technological systems. The Maelstrom corridor waited. The greatest technological challenge in galactic history was about to begin. Humanity was ready. The first hint of trouble came when senior Veloxian engineer Krulnax attempted to replicate the human lightning capture technology in the Confederation's most advanced research laboratory. His hands, augmented with precision quantum manipulation interfaces, moved with the practiced efficiency of 1,000 successful technological adaptations. Krulnax had personally reverse-engineered technologies from 17 different emerging civilizations. This would be no different. Or so he thought. The moment he began to interface with the experimental system, something unexpected happened. The energy matrix, a complex network of conductors and quantum translators, began to actively resist his modifications. Impossible, Krulnax muttered, his translator implant rendering the word with a mix of scientific confusion and growing frustration. Traditional Veloxian engineering approached technology as a series of precise, controllable systems. Each component was expected to respond exactly as predicted, following mathematical models developed over millennia of scientific progress. But this human technology seemed to have a will of its own. When Krulnax attempted to redirect the energy flow, the system pushed back. Not mechanically, but with a complexity that suggested something closer to a living organism than a technological construct. Dr. Vexera watched the experiment from the observation deck, her multiple eyes tracking every microscopic interaction. The data streams flowing across her personal interface were unlike anything she had ever seen. "The system is communicating," she reported to Commander Kthax, who stood nearby. "But not in any way our current computational models can interpret." The lightning capture technology was more than just an energy conversion system. It was a form of technological linguistics, a method of interaction that went beyond simple mechanical translation. Krulnax's quantum manipulation interfaces began to malfunction. Precision systems that could normally dissect the most complex technological systems were being actively confused by the human design matrix. It was as if the technology was learning, adapting, resisting. "I want a complete systems analysis," Kthax demanded, his mandibles clicking with a rhythm that suggested growing scientific frustration. The laboratory became a battlefield of technological understanding. Each attempt to control the system revealed new layers of complexity. Where Veloxian technology sought to dominate and control, the human system seemed to negotiate, communicate, adapt. Dr. Rodriguez's research notes, transmitted as part of the technological challenge, began to make more sense. She had described the lightning capture technology not as a method of energy extraction, but as a form of intersystemic communication. "We're not collecting electricity," one of her notes read. "We're having a conversation with it." The Veloxian scientists had always viewed energy as a resource to be controlled. Humans were treating it like a living language with its own grammar, syntax, and potential for communication. Krulnax's final attempt to interface with the system produced a result that would be discussed in scientific circles for generations. The energy matrix didn't just resist his modifications, it began to actively demonstrate a form of technological immune response. Quantum interfaces overloaded. Precision manipulation systems began to break down. The very act of trying to control the system seemed to trigger a complex defensive mechanism that went far beyond simple technological protection. "It's learning," Vexera reported, her voice a mix of scientific excitement and growing concern. "The system is developing adaptive responses in real time." Commander Kthax watched the experiment with a growing sense that they were witnessing something fundamental, a completely new approach to technological interaction that challenged everything the Galactic Confederation understood about energy and communication. The human lightning capture technology wasn't just a method of energy conversion. It was a living system, a technological organism that learned, adapted, and communicated in ways that defied current scientific understanding. As the experiment concluded, one thing became perfectly clear. Humanity had discovered something revolutionary. They weren't just capturing energy. They were learning to speak its language. The first warning came from the deep space monitoring stations, a solar flare unlike anything recorded in galactic history. Its energy output was 400% beyond previous maximum measurements. 3 Confederation colonies sat directly in its path, their populations numbering over 2.3 billion sentient beings. Traditional planetary defense systems began to fail immediately. Dr. Elena Rodriguez received the emergency transmission at 3:47 Universal Standard Time. Her team had 72 hours to develop a solution that could protect entire planetary populations from what was essentially a stellar death sentence. This isn't just about blocking radiation, she told her team as holographic displays filled with incoming solar data. We're going to transform it. The Confederation's most advanced planetary shield technologies were already crumbling. Quantum dispersal systems, multidimensional energy deflectors, adaptive radiation absorption networks, all were insufficient against the incoming solar apocalypse. Marcus Chen's predictive models showed total civilization collapse within 6 hours of the solar flare's full impact. Entire planetary ecosystems would be sterilized. Technological infrastructure would be reduced to molten slag. We need a living system, Elena muttered, her neural interfaces connecting with the team's collective computational matrix. Not a defense, a transformation. The solution began to take shape with terrifying speed. Drawing from their lightning capture research, the human team started developing something that was less a shield and more a massive planet-scale energy translation network. Most shield technologies sought to block or absorb radiation. The human approach was fundamentally different. They would communicate with it. Massive planetary infrastructure began to change. Existing power grids were retrofitted with adaptive neural networks inspired by biological communication systems. Energy transmission towers became living conduits that could interpret and redirect massive energy potentials. Preliminary simulation shows energy translation potential at 67%, Marcus reported. His voice carried a note of cautious optimism. We're not just protecting, we're negotiating. The Confederation watched in a mixture of scientific terror and desperate hope. Commander Cathax and his research team could barely comprehend the technological approach unfolding before them. Instead of creating a rigid defensive barrier, the humans were developing a planet-scale system that could actively communicate with the incoming solar radiation. It wasn't about stopping the energy. It was about understanding it, redirecting it, transforming it. Massive neural network arrays were constructed with impossible speed. Each array was less a technological installation and more a living, adaptive organism. They drew inspiration from Earth's most complex biological communication systems, neural networks, root communication in plant systems, even the electrical signaling of marine organisms. As the solar flare approached, the planetary defense system began to take shape. It didn't look like a traditional shield. It looked like a living, breathing entity that was preparing to have a conversation with a stellar event. Incoming solar discharge in T-47 minutes, the global monitoring systems announced. The first contact was nothing short of miraculous. Instead of destruction, the solar radiation began to be translated. Energy that would have sterilized entire planetary surfaces was being converted, redirected, transformed into usable power. Entire planetary power grids began to surge with an energy potential that defied previous scientific understanding. The solar flare wasn't being blocked. It was being invited into a complex, planet-scale energy dialogue. Cathax watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. Where every previous civilization would have been destroyed, these humans were turning a potential extinction event into an unprecedented energy generation opportunity. They're not defending, Vexera whispered, her scientific understanding being rewritten in real time. They're communicating. As the solar event reached its peak, the planetary systems didn't just survive. They thrived. Massive energy potentials were being captured, translated, distributed across planetary infrastructure with an efficiency that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Humanity had done more than save 3 planetary populations. They had demonstrated a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact with the most destructive forces in the universe. They had learned to speak the language of stellar chaos. The Confederation's primary research archive was a marvel of technological preservation. Millennia of scientific knowledge crystallized into quantum data matrices that could store entire civilizational histories in microscopic volumes. But on this day, everything changed. Dr. Vexera stood before a holographic projection of the human research files, her multiple eyes focusing and refocusing as if unable to comprehend what she was seeing. The deeper investigations into human electrical technology revealed something far beyond a simple scientific breakthrough. "It's biological," she muttered, a statement that would challenge everything the Galactic Confederation understood about technological development. The research traced the origins of human electrical technology to some of the most unexpected sources on their home planet. Electric eels, primitive organisms that had developed the ability to generate and manipulate electrical discharges. Mycorrhizal networks, underground fungal systems that communicated through complex electrical signals. Neural networks of complex organisms that used electrical impulses as a form of advanced communication. Humans hadn't invented electrical communication. They had learned it by listening. Dr. Rodriguez's research notes revealed a philosophy of technology that was revolutionary. "We don't create systems," one passage read. "We discover conversations that already exist. Technology is just learning to listen." The Confederation's lead xenobiological researchers began to piece together a radical understanding. Where most advanced civilizations saw technology as a tool to be controlled, humans approached it as a living system to be understood. Their lightning capture technology wasn't an invention. It was a translation. Marcus Chen's most groundbreaking work explored what he called electrical linguistics, a comprehensive study of how different systems communicate through electrical potential. He had discovered that electrical signals were less about energy transfer and more about information exchange. "Every lightning strike is a conversation," one of his research papers explained. "We're not capturing energy. We're learning its language." The implications were staggering. Traditional Galactic Confederation technology approached energy as a resource to be extracted. Humans saw it as a living, communicative system with its own grammar, syntax, and potential for dialogue. Experiments revealed layers of complexity that defied previous scientific understanding. When researchers attempted to isolate individual components of the human technology, the systems would actively resist. They weren't machines. They were closer to living organisms. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo's breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By studying the electrical communication methods of Earth's most primitive organisms, she had developed a comprehensive framework for understanding energy as a form of intelligent communication. "We've been asking the wrong questions," she told the Confederation researchers. "It's not about how we control energy. It's about how we communicate with it." The research traced back to fundamental principles of human innovation. Where most civilizations sought to dominate natural systems, humans had developed a unique ability to observe, understand, and collaborate. The lightning capture technology was just the beginning. It represented a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact with the most fundamental forces of the universe. Biological inspirations were everywhere. The neural networks of the human brain, the root communication systems of forests, the electrical signaling of marine organisms. Humans have been learning the language of electrical communication their entire evolutionary history. Commander Kthax reviewed the research with a growing sense of both scientific wonder and professional unease. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a completely new approach to understanding the universe. "They're not just capturing electricity," he muttered, reviewing the research files. "They're having a conversation with the fundamental fabric of existence." The most shocking revelation came from the most unexpected source. The human technology wasn't just adaptive. It was alive in a way that challenged every previous understanding of what technology could mean. Electrical potential wasn't just a physical phenomenon. It was a form of communication more complex and nuanced than any previously understood scientific principle. Humanity had done more than develop a new technology. They had discovered a new way of understanding the universe itself. They had learned to listen to the language of energy. The diplomatic chamber of the Galactic Confederation was designed to intimidate. Immense crystalline walls that could shift opacity and texture, floating data streams that represented centuries of interstellar negotiation, and a circular platform that seemed to hover between dimensions. It was a space where civilizations were judged, where technological potential was evaluated with cold, calculated precision. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, surrounded by her team. They were an incongruous group, scientists and engineers who looked more like they'd just stepped out of a research lab than a high-stakes diplomatic meeting. No formal diplomatic attire, no rehearsed political speeches, just a group of humans who saw the universe as a problem to be solved. Commander Kthax expected a typical negotiation: demands for territory, requests for technological trade agreements, pleas for integration into the Galactic Confederation. What he received was something entirely different. "We're proposing open-source collaborative research," Elena began, her voice calm and direct. No diplomatic flourishes, no elaborate linguistic dance. Just a straightforward proposal that would reshape galactic scientific understanding. The Confederation representatives exchanged looks of confusion. Open-source research wasn't just unusual. It was practically heretical in a galactic culture built on technological secrecy and controlled information exchange. Marcus Chen stepped forward, bringing up a holographic display that showed the intricate networks of their lightning capture technology. "We're not interested in ownership," he explained. "We're interested in understanding." The proposal was radical in its simplicity. Instead of seeking technological advantage, humans were offering to share their entire research framework. Not just the results, but the entire process of discovery, every failed experiment, every unexpected breakthrough. Complete transparency. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo explained the philosophical underpinning. "Technology isn't a weapon," she said. "It's a conversation, and conversations are most powerful when they're shared." The Veloxian representatives found themselves confronting a fundamentally different approach to technological development. Where their civilization saw knowledge as a resource to be controlled, humans saw it as something to be explored collectively. Vexera, the senior researcher who had been most intrigued by human technology, found herself advocating for the proposal. "They're offering something beyond a technological exchange," she told the Confederation Council. "They're offering a new way of understanding innovation itself." The proposal included full access to their research on electrical communication, the lightning capture technology, the planetary defense systems, the neural network approaches that had allowed them to communicate with energy itself. Nothing was held back. Kthax struggled to comprehend the motivation. In thousands of years of galactic diplomatic history, no emerging civilization had ever offered such complete technological transparency. Civilizations fought wars over far less technological potential. Why? He finally asked, mandibles clicking with genuine confusion. Why would you offer everything? Velena's response was simple and profound. Because understanding is more important than ownership. Because the universe is a collaborative project, not a competitive one. The diplomatic team began to realize this wasn't a negotiation. It was an invitation. Collaborative research centers were proposed. Not in a single location, but distributed across multiple planetary systems. Each center would be a hub of shared discovery, where multiple civilizations could contribute and learn. The humans weren't seeking political power. They weren't looking to become a dominant galactic civilization. They were offering something far more valuable, a new approach to scientific discovery itself. As the negotiations continued, it became clear that this was about more than technology. It was about a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact with each other and with the universe itself. The Galactic Confederation had expected a typical diplomatic exchange. Instead, they were being offered a revolution. Humanity wasn't trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to understand it. together. 50 standard galactic cycles had passed since the first human lightning capture technology transformed interstellar energy systems. The collaborative research centers established during those initial diplomatic meetings had become something far more profound than anyone could have imagined. Dr. Kthax, grandson of the commander who first challenged human technological claims, stood on the observation deck of the Nexus research station. The station itself was a testament to the revolutionary approach humanity had introduced to galactic civilization. Its power systems pulsed with a living energy that seemed to breathe, adapt, and communicate. It wasn't about the technology, the elder researcher often told younger scientists. It was about a fundamental way of understanding the universe. The lightning capture technology had become more than an energy solution. It was a philosophical revolution that reshaped how intelligent species approached scientific discovery, energy management, and interstellar cooperation. Planetary defense systems across hundreds of worlds now used the adaptive communication protocols first developed by Elena Rodriguez's team. Entire civilizations had reimagined their approach to technology, moving from extraction to communication, from control to understanding. The original research team had become legendary, not as conquerors or technological overlords, but as pioneers of a new way of thinking. Marcus Chen's work on electrical linguistics was now a fundamental course of study in every major scientific institution. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo's biomimetic research had spawned entire new fields of technological development. But the most profound change was cultural. Where galactic civilizations had once viewed technology as a weapon, a resource to be hoarded and controlled, they now saw it as a collaborative conversation. The open-source approach pioneered by humans had transformed scientific discovery itself. The Confederation's archives now told a different story. No longer was humanity viewed as an emerging species to be evaluated and potentially dismissed. They were recognized as the civilization that had fundamentally changed how intelligent life understood its relationship with energy, technology, and the universe itself. Vex Era, now the senior diplomatic advisor, reflected on the journey. The collaborative research centers had become more than scientific installations. They were living proof of what could happen when civilizations chose understanding over competition. "We thought we were teaching them," she would often say. But they were teaching us something far more important. The lightning capture technology had evolved. What began as a method of energy conversion had become a complex, planet-scale communication network. Entire stellar systems now used adaptive energy systems that could interpret, translate, and communicate with the most fundamental forces of existence. On Earth, the original research facility still stood, now a museum and living research center. The lightning towers that had first caught the Confederation's attention were preserved, a reminder of how everything began. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now in her late years, would sometimes visit the facility. She would stand among the towers, feeling the electrical potential that still danced around her, a living memory of a technological revolution. "We didn't discover a new technology," she would tell the young researchers who would gather around her. "We discovered a new way of listening." The legacy wasn't just technological, it was philosophical. Humanity had introduced a fundamental shift in how intelligent life approached discovery, communication, and cooperation. Civilizations that had once been on the brink of conflict now collaborated. Energy systems that had once been sources of competition became shared resources. The universe itself seemed to become a more interconnected, more understanding place. Kthax looked out at the station's adaptive energy matrix, a complex network that seemed to breathe and think, that communicated as much as it generated power. He thought about his grandfather, about that first challenging moment when humans were viewed as nothing more than a curiosity. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had transformed how the galaxy understood itself. They had learned to speak the language of energy. And in doing so, they had taught the universe how to listen.